Jim, let's start today with a story that everyone's been talking about. It's kind of fascinating. Stephanie Vaquer, if I am pronouncing her name correctly.
I think it's Vaquer.
Well, she just appeared on the AEW Forbidden Door pay-per-view.
Put an L in instead of the V, and it would be lacquer, right? Like the varnish.
Lacquer.
No, that's like a liqueur. That's a.
She's from Chile.
Put the Q in a different place.
She's from Chile. It's a different pronunciation in Chile than it is here. Chile.
And then you
Say
mean
Chile.
to tell me Chile.
You see?
Chile.
You see, that's the difference between Vaquer and Vaquer. Well,
what?
We may need some liquor to get through this show, but Jim...
Yeah, so the point is, what about Stephanie Vaquer now?
Well, she just appeared on Forbidden Door, had that match with Mercedes Moné. To a lot of people, she was the more impressive of the two in the ring. She was on AEW TV.
Everybody in the building was cheering for her.
She was on AEW TV for several weeks leading up to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. She is a CMLL, I believe she was a title holder there, and wrestled as part of New Japan Pro Wrestling, CMLL, AEW's Love Triangle, whatever the fuck.
All the alphabet soup. She carried a couple of belts out with her. I think maybe had a wheelbarrow with some more of them.
Well, within a few hours and a day or two, everything kind of broke. We have here an announcement from CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Thank you for supporting Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre, CMLL, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW. I know I pronounced that correctly. Citing personal reasons, Stephanie Vaquer has elected to depart from the CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling rosters effective immediately. As a result, Vaquer will not compete in her scheduled match against Luvia at Fantastica Mania.
Who? What?
Luvia. L-L-U-V-I-A.
Oh, boy.
Or it could be... I'm not even going to try. At Fantastica Mania, July 13th in San Jose.
Would that be like the Spanish version of like llama? That's the only other word I can think of that begins with two L's. Is she the masked llama?
I don't know. We will, I'm sure, find out. Furthermore, CMLL hereby announces Vaquer is stripped of both the CMLL World Women's and World Women's Tag Team Championships. She held two of their top titles there.
Jesus Christ.
This Saturday at Fantastica Mania USA, a new CMLL World Champion, Women's World Champion, will be crowned in a three-way match featuring Luvia from CMLL, Viva Van, or Viva Van, whatever, I'm not sure, from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Willow Nightingale from AEW. We remain committed to ensuring the highest quality wrestling for our fans at Fantastica Mania USA this Saturday and at all future events. Shortly after this, I believe Shawn Michaels put up a tweet welcoming her to WWE and NXT. She put up a tweet. Let me go to this. At this moment, I stop belonging to the ranks of CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Clarify, I am leaving through the big door.
What?
This is a translation. Forever grateful to the World Wrestling Council.
Who translated it? Howie the mailroom guy?
And New Japan Pro Wrestling. And in the best terms, from today, I vacate the CMLL World Women's Championship as well as the World Women's Couples Championship, for which I offer an apology to the fans. For obvious reasons, I will not be present at the next shows, and I hope you can understand that the terms between companies are what led to this statement. With Mexico in my heart...
No, we don't really understand, do we, Brian?
With Mexico in my heart, and with the commitment to represent Mexican wrestling wherever I go, infinite thanks to Senor Salvador Luderoff for his good wishes. It's so funny, there's another Salvador Luderoff. And...
I was about how old would he be now? 120?
And he also said that Jerry Lawler is Mexico's Wrestler of the Year. No, and also thank you for the unconditional support of my people and my colleagues. Thank you. Let's get away from the translated stuff for a little while. Stephanie Vaquer apparently surprised CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. AEW apparently made an offer for her. WWE in the past, she was not, I don't know how you put it, she was not taken in after a tryout.
She was like the rest of them were taken in.
But maybe they've had her. But maybe they've had her eye on her. The timing of this means they either signed her within 2 weeks after Forbidden Door, or they were talking to her before Forbidden Door. She did all that stuff on that TV show and then immediately signed. But this is reminiscent of WCW. Remember when WCW in like 90, 91 would put people on TV and then Vince would just take them because they weren't signed. They were just putting anyone on TV. The Nasty Boys jumped right after their big high-profile program with the Steiners.
Yeah, well, backing up a second, a lot of times in those days, in the early 90s, they didn't want to commit to, they had a certain set amount they were going to spend on talent because everybody was just making their guarantee, no more. And they would just bring guys in for, oh, he's got a deal in Japan. Well, let's bring him in for some TV shots or whatever. And that's how Vader was there for a few appearances 1 year and then came in the next. He wasn't going to go to the WWF at that point because his Japan thing was too lucrative. But nevertheless, back to modern day. Here's the thing is, and this, maybe the new ownership is changing all of the procedures they've gone through. But obviously, I've talked to guys over the last, on and off the last 15 or 20 years going through the process, even after I was not involved in their developmental anymore. And they have to go for the medical exams and they have to check them out for this and then blood work and background checks. And so if they are not doing that anymore, they're like, hey, you know, we'll sign you up now and find out later on that you were on some type of list somewhere or whatever. They've had to have been talking for a while because they wouldn't announce it unless later on she either flunks the blood test because they find out that her septum is leaking through her brain or whatever, or, you know, she's on an international watch list of some kind. And then they, oh, sorry, never mind. So I would have to think they've been talking for more than 2 fucking weeks. Doesn't that make sense?
It does. You would think so. Otherwise, it says a lot that this happened that quickly and that she used Forbidden Door as a showcase. Typically, it's been a showcase of international talent for Tony to sign. In this case, she used it to get a bigger deal, technically in the long run, because even if Tony was offering her more money, if she becomes a top women's wrestler in WWE, it's a different world altogether. But she just wrestled the other night, apparently, in Guadalajara, her final match for CMLL. She beat Tessa Blanchard. They embraced. She kind of got a little emotional, it seems like, you know, she's the only one who knew it was her last match there.
Yeah.
But she left. What does that bother you at all? Her leaving with 2 titles. She left beating Tessa Blanchard, so beating, I would assume, one of the top foreign stars among the women wrestlers in Mexico, right?
Well, but here is something else that we all need to find out more about, because if she was on good terms with this company in Mexico, even if the WWE called her up and said the AEW thing hadn't happened, wasn't going on, whatever, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether it was or wasn't. If the WWE calls her and says, hey, you want a job? And she says, yeah, I do. I'm working here in Mexico. I got these 2 belts. Pretty much, they would usually say, drop them, finish up. We'll fly you up here and do this fucking testing, whatever. It's not like stealing her away from the company without her losing these belts means anything to the WWE. It wouldn't have meant anything to Vince. It doesn't mean anything to the new owners. It almost has to be, she told them, I want the fuck out of here. I don't want to deal with these people anymore. I don't want to work for them ever again. I mean, what else could that be? I can't believe that they would, in Stamford, they would say to this young lady, it's not like they're stealing the AEW world champion. You know, don't finish any dates. Don't ever work for these people again. Don't drop the belts.
That's what Vince would do.
But not for somebody like in another country.
That's what he did to
didn't give a
Junkyard
shit.
Dog, right? I mean, just, again, a different example, but that's what Junkyard Dog did. He left without notice, without jobs, without anything.
Well, no, that's good. I'm talking about this is another country, and she ain't a Junkyard Dog to the American audience right now. She had one match on a pay-per-view that was seen by 100,000 people, whatever the fuck.
And by the way, you say that and you're right. This may be the biggest shot WWE's taken at CMLL ever, right? Was Mystico left and became Sin Cara on his own. But this is she was 2 champions there. This is a pretty big hit.
Well, now, the WWE, have they recently, or are they about to run a house show in Mexico?
I believe.
I read this.
Yeah, I believe they are going to do something. You got to know she's going to be there. That's where you should debut her and have her make her first appearance.
Well, we don't know it yet, but when it happens, whether she is or isn't, might tell us something. Because did they sign her not with the theory that we got this girl away from AEW, but we got this girl away with a couple of belts from CMLL, and we're about to run Mexico more often? Is that a strategy? What I'm saying is that I can't believe that one of the reasons why that Stephanie was so popular with the fans at Forbidden Door was because they just dislike Mercedes Moon so bad and in an annoying way. Right? So one match they wouldn't drop everything and say, fuck testing, fuck background check, sign this girl now, unless there had been contact going on, or unless they thought, Mexico, there's a market that she could be important in, or something other than, we got to get this girl away from AEW when she wasn't even signed to AEW. It helped me connect other dots that...
Well, the other thing is, I think a lot of people forget, because the advent of AEW, one of the things it was kind of a shot at WWE, even if not by Tony Khan and AEW itself, the fans. It was, we've had enough of WWE and Vince McMahon, we have this now. People forget that you would have to imagine the majority of people who become professional wrestlers and get into the business, in this day and age, their dream is to make it to the top of WWE. Because that's where you'd make the most money, that's where you'd have the most exposure, and quite frankly, that's what you've been watching on TV since you were a kid. So, despite management, whatever is there, typically that's the goal of most wrestlers. It's not, I really want to be good at what I do and find a billionaire that's going to pay me lots of money, even though I won't necessarily mean anything to the business. Everyone wants to mean something to the business. If you make it in WWE, it's like making it in New York, so to speak. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Dun, 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 dun.
If you make it in AEW, you can make it in Reseda. I mean, it's not the same thing at all. And I think that's one of the things you see with a thing like this, because Tony could offer her more money, and Tony needs wrestlers like that for his women's division if he's going to do it. But she wanted to go to WWE. And if you're going to do it, you got to do it. Look at Okada. That's the opposite. Okada's the example of someone that WWE would have wanted, and he thought this was the better idea. He's going to get all this money. What's this going to do to his legacy? Someone like Stephanie Vaquer, it appears she's trying to actually make a legacy.
Well, and the legacy will be legendary, as long as it includes llamas. Or Lydia. What was her name?
It wasn't Lydia. I
Lydia, oh, Lydia. Oh, have you seen Lydia?
That was...
Lydia, the tattooed lady. Luvia.
What does that mean? Hold on, let me look it up. Luvia.
I think I may have a gardener that has showed up, by the way.
Oh, good. I thought that was my sign. For once, it's you, and you're calling it first. Luvia translates to rain.
So, her name is Rain.
Rain.
Well, she'll be right sooner or later. All right. But nevertheless, I think it was Stephanie.
Apparently, I'm pronouncing it wrong. This is the pronunciation.
Uvia.
Uvia.
Well, no, that's uvula.
No, the uvia.
Uvula, that's that thing that dangles down in your throat, your uvula. And also you can get diseases. You need to care. It would behoove you to care for your uvula.
I will say some of the names in Lucha Libre, you're always like, what? Some of them you get like El Psychedelico. Okay, you know. Winners. What? His name is Winners? But we'll see what happens.
Well, what does that mean in Spanish?
Winners? Hold on. Let me put this in Spanish. Winners translates to winners in English.
We stole their word. See, if it weren't for the Spanish people and the Spanish-speaking people, there would be no winners in America. So take that, you anti-immigrant people.
Well, there it is, and we'll stay on top of this. But Stephanie Vaquer going to WWE or going to NXT, and that'll be an interesting thing there.
And I just also, I'm just going to say this one more time. I can't believe that there wasn't some type of ongoing contact before 2 weeks ago that led to, or not even 2 weeks ago, now that I'm looking at the calendar, that led to this announcement.
How does no one have her under contract? That's the other thing. And if you were a wrestler and you were about to appear on AEW's pay-per-view and you had no contract, would you call WWE and say you're about to do that?
Most of them, no, I don't think the WWE would take their fucking calls. Tony's trying to bring in all these foreign wrestlers to fit his concept, even though he's already signed up most of the foreign wrestlers that fit the concept. So at some point, he can't sign everyone in the world. If he keeps doing that, he's going to use more people that end up getting signed elsewhere. And probably the only reason it hadn't happened so far is because he's so lousy at picking the foreign talent.
Well, on that note, I will say that Tony Khan has announced that Tomohiro Ishii will be with AEW for the rest of the summer.
Oh, good Lord. Ishii.